This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream from the comfort and convenience of your own home. A few things I needed to tell you about the conference. First of all, we're going to give you well over 50 hours of very dense but very valuable information over 4 days, more than you could possibly absorb. And to that end, whether you attend live or via live stream, we will record the entire proceedings of the conference, and those recordings will be available for you for a full year, and you'll need them given the amount of information that we're going to give you. Further to that end, we're interviewing every public company exhibitor and every speaker of the conference before the conference. Listen to all the interviews so that you can reach out to the companies and allocate your time and your financial resources more efficiently at the conference. Note further that every public company exhibitor at this conference has been vetted by the conference. Unlike any other investment conference on the planet, no public company is allowed on our exhibit floor if we don't own shares in that company. There's no guarantee, sadly, that because I own shares, they go up in price. There is a guarantee that I have vetted every single public company exhibitor on my floor and interviewed them, in enough detail that I'm confident in owning the shares. This allows me to make a fairly exorbitant pledge to you, the attendee, and that pledge is as follows. If you attend the conference, either live or live stream, and you don't believe that we have delivered your money's worth, we will refund your tuition. No other investment conference on the planet that I know of is so confident in their ability to deliver value that they give you an unconditional money-back guarantee for the tuition. We've been doing this for 30 years, and in 30 years, we've had to refund about 0.1% of the tuitions that we've charged. That notwithstanding, this guarantee is your guarantee that the financial risk of attending the conference is mine, not yours. So let's begin. Today's pre-conference interview features a man who I've known for a very long time and invested with for a couple of decades, a guy named George Ogilvie, who is CEO of Arizona Sonora. So let's get started. George, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us something about your past successes in mining, something that would give us comfort that you'll be successful this time, and something, too, that will add credibility to the answers that you're going to give to the nosy questions that follow.
Well, thank you, Rick. Well, I'm a mining engineer with 35 years of experience. Prior to joining Arizona Sonoran, I'd gone into a very infamous company called Rubicon Minerals that had the Phoenix project in Northern Ontario. They had built the mine on the back of a PEA, and I took it through restructuring. And over the period of 4 years, we did things the way they should have been done. And ultimately, that company was sold to Evolution Mining for a 47% premium, all cash offer. Was the highest share price that the shareholders had seen in the 4 years since the restructuring. Prior to that, I'd gone into Kirkland Lake Gold, which was very much a broken story, 200 million market cap. Over a period of 3 years, we turned that company around. The share price went from $2 and change to $15 and a 1.5 billion market cap upon my exit. And 3 years later, it was sold to Agnico Eagle for in excess of $10 billion US dollars. And then prior to that, I started up Rambler Metals and Mining on the Baie Verte Peninsula when it was an old abandoned mine that had been forgotten for 20 years. And over a period of 3 years, we did all the technical reports, raised all the money, put it into production. And of course, it was free cash flowing for the first 3 years of commercial production. So I've got a very general and varied successful track record of really bringing mines into production and turning around broken stories.
And in fairness, working with some pretty sophisticated investors.
Very much so, yes. Eric Sprott, we brought in, who you will know well as non-executive chairman at Kirkland Lake, was a great supporter of Kirkland Lake, and we got a great outcome for the shareholders of that company.
And of course, before that, the Altius team, who will be present at our conference as well.
That's correct.
George, tell us something about what you're about today. Give us a little overview of Arizona Sonora.
Yeah. Well, we just put out a PEA last year. This is a former producing copper mine in the heartland of the Arizona Copper Belt. The PEA was ran using a $3.90 copper price flat throughout the model. We ended up with an NPV 8 after tax of $2 billion US, an IRR after tax of 24%. We generated $7+ billion US in unlevered free cash flow over a 31-year mine life. This is a heap leach SXEW of a copper porphyry system. So ultimately, we will be producing copper cathode in the United States, which obviously won't be subject to any potential tariffs. And of course, now we're in the midst of completing a pre-feasibility study that'll come to market in the second half of this year. Upon the delivery of that, we move immediately into bankable feasibility study, which would come out in the second half of 2026. We would also be announcing project financing at this time. And assuming we make a positive final investment decision, it's an 18 to 24 month construction and development period, which means we would realize first copper cathode before the end of 2028, which is only 3.5 years away.
So the best document that we have right now for establishing the value is a preliminary economic assessment. We'll get a better documentation coming up, but that's the one we have right now. Tell me something about the juxtaposition of the net present value established by the PEA and the market capitalization of Arizona Sonora. In other words, what's the value proposition?
Yeah, well, today we have a market cap of $200 million US. And as I said, at a 2 billion NPV after tax, that means that we're currently trading at 0.1 times price to NAV. We have approximately 8 analysts that cover the company from some of the major banks like TD, Scotiabank, Canaccord, etc., etc. And based on consensus, they have us trading at 0.2 times price to NAV. And our peers currently trade between 0.3 to 0.6 times price to NAV. So I think we're going to see, once the PFS comes out and we have a very robust mine plan and a financial and economic model built from mineable reserves, assuming we're able to duplicate those numbers within that PEA from 2024, I believe there's a significant re-rate coming within this company over the course of the next 6 months.
Got it. And tell me something about the permitting and title status.
Well, the beauty of this project is it's a brownfield site, so it went through all of the permitting 5 decades ago when the mine came into production in the early 1970s. The other key thing to note with the project, it's all on private land, so there's no federal nexus here. We're only dealing with the state regulators and the local municipality. The project today is fully permitted as per a PEA in 2021, which was used as for the IPO issuing document. That envisaged a 18-year mine life and 28,000 tons of annual cathode production, whereas the current PEA envisages a 31-year mine life with average annual production of 100,000 tons of cathode over the first 20 years per annum. So those permits are going to have to be amended. The way that works, Rick, is that with no federal nexus, once we make an application for an amended permit and the application is then administratively accepted, it starts a clock ticking, and within 6 months, the regulator must give us a response to the permit. So the longest we've had to wait for any permit to date is 5 months for an amended aquifer protection permit. And just last year, December, we announced that we had an amended industrial air permit from the local municipality, which we received within 4 months of it being administratively accepted. The other key thing to note in Arizona is we have water rights to the year 2070, and there's actually an abundance of natural water in the ground in a natural aquifer that sits about 2,500 feet below surface. And indeed, there are historical wells which are still active today with pumps and piezometers in those wells where we take water from that ASARCO was actually using 4 decades ago when they closed the mine in 1984. So we're in a very fortunate and unique situation as far as access to water and permitting is concerned.
I think it's important that our listeners note that you're on private land, and as a consequence of that, hopefully miss the drama around the Resolution deposit, which has caused so much trauma for Rio and BHP. Uh, Tell us a little bit about ISR coppers. This, I take it, when Asarco ran it, it wasn't an ISR. Tell us something about that recovery technique and the advantages in terms of upfront capital costs associated with ISR.
Yeah, so when Asarco had this operation in the 1970s, heat leaching technology with a solvent extraction electrowinning plant was very much in its infancy and was not proven technology. So they were only treating the sulfides using a traditional concentrator and floating a concentrate. Over the last 3 to 4 decades, heat bleaching with an SXEW has become more industry proven and standard, particularly when it comes to porphyry systems with oxides. So the process we'll be using is a standard heap leach. We apply sulfuric acid on top of the pads. It creates a pregnant leach solution that ultimately gets pumped into a large tank house where we have a anode and a cathode, and we pass a current between the solution, and ultimately what happens is the copper ions get attracted to the cathode and they form a cathode plate, which is 99.99% pure to LME grade A. We can sell that directly into US manufacturing for the manufacturing of copper wire or copper rods to go into plumbing or refrigeration systems. This final product does not have to go offshore for further smelting and refining, which means that it's going to be extremely valuable, not just today, but in the next 3 to 4 years when this mine comes into production, and then over the ensuing 20 plus year of the ultimate mine life.
Well, George, if people are interested in hearing more about this story, what I want to know is precisely who they contact and exactly how they contact them.
Yep. Well, they should certainly reach out and speak to myself, George Ogilvie. They can reach me at gogilvie@arizonasonoran.com, or feel free to pick up the phone and do it the old-fashioned way, which is great. Call me at +1 416 723 0458, and I'd love to speak to current shareholders or any potentially new shareholders.
George, thank you for 3 decades of toil on behalf of mining industry investors, myself going all the way back to Rambler. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
Thank you, Rick.